This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, June 15th, 2009, and this is episode 578 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hochberg of StudioCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Mike Scopa, a senior feature writer and blogger for AllEars.net. Welcome, Mike.
I just oiled myself.
Timekeeper?
No. Oh my God.
Just oiled myself?
I just oiled myself.
Alien Encounter?
Pre-show, Stitch's Great Escape.
Oh, that would be why I never... That's why I don't
Yeah,
remember.
oh, that's what I meant. Yeah, whatever.
Also joining us on today's show is Len Testa, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome, Len.
How's it going, Matt?
Outstanding. All right, on today's show, we are talking about the restaurants that how much time you need for restaurants to book in advance. And Len, you did some research on this to kind of come up with a list of, well, how would you say, how much in advance you need to book a restaurant in advance, or what you found has been the case?
Yeah, so really there were two sort of common things that that people ask us over and over again. They came together into one experiment for us, and the question was this: what restaurants do I need to book 90 days out? And then, assuming I only know that I'm going like 30 days out, like if I'm booking my trip today for next week, what's available to me, or what should I try and get without spending too much time on the phone? Like, there's no point in trying to book Le Cellier a week out because it's not available, and there's no point trying to book Cinderella's Royal Table because you're paying for those phone calls and you don't want to spend an hour on the phone with Disney Dining. We'll talk about that. So what could you reasonably expect to do, with different time frames? Like what's the best restaurant you could get in at 60 days out, at 30 days out, at 15 days out, and then tomorrow? What's the best thing you could do? Yeah. So that's what we did with this. So actually, to get access to Disney's online advanced dining reservation system, and we ran for a series of days. We looked at every restaurant in all four parks, and then for those that serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like for character meals, we looked at breakfast, lunch, and dinner for those, trying to figure out how far in advance you need to book those on average. So we did it for the summer because typically that's when most people go, right? So you probably have 10 extra days or so to book. If you're going during a slow time, you probably have 10 fewer days leeway if you're going during like Christmas. So if we say something is, you should book something 60 days out on average, but you're going during a slow time, you could probably book it 50 days out and get away with it. But if you're going during a very busy time, you need to book it 70 days out. Cool. So so here's the interesting thing. So the restaurants that you have to book 90 days out, we've always talked about Le Cellier, and that's always true. Le Cellier, if you know you're going, you literally have to be on the phone at 7 a.m. when Disney Dining opens on your 90th day out. But the other interesting thing, there's another restaurant in Epcot that is just as popular that's really just fallen off our radar, and that's Coral Reef in Future World. You have to book that 90 days in advance as well. I never would have guessed that, either from the Unofficial Guide Reader Satisfaction Survey or from just hearing people talk on the web about stuff.
Could it be, Len, that particular restaurant is specializing in seafood and fish, and that could be a factor there?
Yeah, so I think we touched on this briefly before. It's the only non-ethnic restaurant in the Walt Disney World parks, but I think it's also the only one that specializes in seafood, right? I can't think of another in-park restaurant that specializes in seafood the way Coral Reef does.
You're right.
Yeah, so that and it has improved recently too, so that might have something to do with it. But Coral Reef is actually harder to get into than any of the Cinderella's Royal Table meals.
Wow.
Yeah, so and that brings us on to Cinderella's Royal Table. So those you typically have to book around between 80 and 85 days in advance. So you don't actually have to get up every morning and do it, at 90 days out and do it. And I think part of the reason why there's not as much demand for it anymore is because they do have 3 meals. Like if Le Cellier had 3 meals instead of 2, you might have a little bit more. A little bit more leeway there. Yeah. Although Crystal Palace has 3 meals, and And dinner for that is exceedingly difficult to get to.
No, it's character meal and it's in the Crown Jewel. It's in the Magic Kingdom. So you've got those two factors working against you.
So Crystal Palace for breakfast, you have to book about 80 days out. But also 80 days out, which is interesting, is Garden Grill in Epcot.
Garden Grill?
And you don't have a choice on the you don't have a choice there. They just give you family style. It's served family style there, at least the last time I checked.
Well, so it's all you care to eat. So people probably think of it as decent value. And again, Matt, it's non-ethnic food in Epcot.
Yeah, but every time I've walked by there, it always looks dead. It's always like that's what surprised me. I mean, I can see Coral Reef because I never go there, so I take your word. But it always seems like it's dead over there. I mean, to say 80.
Yeah, I've done walk-ons. I've done walk-ons, whatever. There lots of times.
It's just surprising. That's all.
So it could be something where they're stacking tables or something. But no, I mean, it looks consistently 80 days out. The next most popular thing, and I think this is interesting. This Tusker House. Tusker House is sort of the restaurant that's in the middle. So everything that we just talked about is I think we could reasonably describe as super popular, right?
Sure.
Right.
Tusker House is right in the middle. Tusker House, you can book 45 days in advance. Much less than that, and you're probably not going to get in. But you don't necessarily need to wake up, 90 days in advance. Tusker House is sort of the dividing line between the very popular and then the not so popular restaurants. That's really interesting. So then the next couple after that, they typically have to book around 30 days out, are Teppan Edo and 50s Primetime Cafe.
See, I would take both of those, stick it back at 80,
Whoa.
and take Garden Grill and stick it back over here.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It doesn't work out that way.
Now, can I back you up for a second here, Len? What's the methodology that you use? I mean, what were you looking at? One time of the year, many times of the year?
Sorry. So I've run this for a week using over the summer dates, and I've looked at for breakfast. I looked at table for 4, 2 adults and 2 children, at 8 a.m. For lunch, I looked table for 4 at noon, and for dinner, I looked for table for 4 at 6. Now, the way that the Disney online ADR system works is I think it gives you 45 minutes or an hour leeway either way. So if I said 6 and it came up with 6:30 for a table, that was fine. If it came up with 5:45, that was fine as well. So when I'm saying nothing's available at Garden Grill 80 days out, that means I checked at 45 days out, I checked at 60 days out, I checked at 75 days out, all the way up.
Okay.
And so it's sort of to speed things up, I did a binary search. So if it's 90 days out, I started at 45. And then if it was yes or no, I just moved halfway the other way.
Okay.
On it, yeah. So that's so I'm pretty confident in the methodology.
Okay.
So the other interesting thing too is since it's summer, when you start getting close, like within a month or so, 4th of July was there. So there are certain restaurants where I'm saying you can actually book, within a day or so, and we'll get to those. But some of these restaurants that we're getting to, you could actually book on July 4th right now if you wanted to. So the next set of popular restaurants are the 3 Akershus Royal Banquet Halls. For those, you pretty much have to book around 25 days in advance. And I don't see much variation at all in the breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And I think that has more to do with the setting and the fact that it's in Norway and it's in Epcot than anything else. Because the breakfast is just breakfast, right? I mean, we've talked about this before. It's the standard sort of eggs, bacon, 3 kinds of pig type thing.
Right.
Beer garden, you can actually book 25 days in advance on average. And I think for the quality of the food, that's not a bad tip to give people, right? So for our listeners who have friends going to Walt Disney World who tell you, oh yeah, we're going to Disney World next month, we haven't made dining reservations. Beer garden is probably one of the best places that you're likely get into within a month.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a great walk-up place to begin with.
Yeah, so I mean, during the more crowded times of the year, you might not be able to walk in. But yeah, in general, beer garden, and I think that the fact that it's available has a lot to do with the way that it does its seating. In those tables of 8,
yes,
where you're sitting with people you might not know. Yeah, Rose and Crown Dining Room, San Angelian Ristorante, and Tutto Italia are all in the 25-day range. Now, the interesting thing about that is Tutto Italia used to be when it was the older place, the Alfredo's. That used to be extremely popular. It used to be Epcot's most popular restaurant, and that's really fallen off. So that could either be a change in management or could be the fact that they're charging $26 for pasta now. one or the other.
Oh,
I know. $26 for $26 for pasta.
Pasta.
You should be getting like 10 pounds of pasta.
Okay.
God.
The next group of restaurants are somewhere in the mid 20s down to 20, and those are the Plaza Restaurant in the Magic Kingdom, Tony's Town Square, Chefs de France, Hollywood and Vine Breakfast, and Sci-Fi Dine-In are all within 20 days. So then the next group is 10 days or fewer. So and kicking those off at 10 days out, Liberty Tree Tavern. I mean, for dinner. So this is no longer a character meal.
Right.
And wow, that's really fallen off. I mean, I like the food. It's relatively reasonably priced for a theme park. It's all you care to eat. I'm surprised that you only have to book that 10 days out.
Wow.
Also at 10 days is Hollywood and Vine lunch and dinner. You can pretty much book those 10 days out. Now the next group of restaurants you have to book less than a week out, around 5 days. This is these are, by the way, this is my studio's grouping of restaurants. So it's Hollywood Brown Derby and Mama Melrose's Ristorante Italiano, 5 days out, which I think is fairly interesting actually, because I think Mama Melrose's is not that expensive.
Right.
Right. Hollywood Brown Derby is, and Matt, by the way, this is remember the tip that you gave me that time for Star Wars Weekend.
Oh yeah.
It's totally true about being able to book Hollywood Brown Derby at last minute any given day of the year. I think that's true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always Brown Derby's a great last minute reservation place.
Yeah, so I think for our listeners, if they ever need a couple of places to go last minute, this is the set that they want to do. Hollywood Brown Derby, Mama Melrose's Ristorante Italiano, which isn't bad. I think we all like it. I thought the food last time was just okay, but
yeah, I like it quite a bit. I know Newell does too.
Yeah, I mean, you could also try Hollywood and Vine and maybe get in there. So the next group of restaurants are those that when I check the ADR online menu, you could literally get into the next night without any trouble whatsoever. And there's actually some surprising ones on here. So Bistro de Paris, you can get into. Restaurant Marrakesh, you can get into next day. Tokyo Dining, Nine Dragons, no one's surprised about that. Rainforest Cafe at the Animal Kingdom. Tusker House Lunch and Dinner, you can actually, it's walk up. And so is Yak and Yeti.
I believe that. I think most people, and I think that's the Animal Kingdom ones. I think are
everyone's leaving.
Everyone's leaving, right?
Everyone's leaving it. Yeah. So I mean, you could easily. So I think pretty much. So the lesson that we learned from that is you can do walk up dinner anywhere in the Animal Kingdom with a reasonably high chance of success.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
So if you're at Epcot, if you're at the Magic Kingdom, you probably have to make those reservations well in advance. For the studios and for the Animal Kingdom, anything within a couple of weeks, and you're probably okay.
Cool. All right, Lionel. I mean, it makes some of it was very surprising. Some of it made absolute sense. Towards the end, I think it made absolute sense. Scott, what was your reaction to hearing all?
Well, one of the things I was thinking is how these lead times and how these restaurants may shift depending upon the time of year. Wondering if during the busy times, if certain restaurants are more popular than others. And for instance, Len, the character meals I would think would be more popular during the summer than they would be, let's say, in October, because you'd have more families going in the summer. Therefore, you'd have more children. Therefore, you'd have more of a demand for the character meals than you would in, let's say, late September, October, November.
Yeah, it's interesting in that we pick summer because that's when most people go, right? Other than Christmas and Easter, when everything's just jam packed. It gives you a reasonable idea of what crowds are like. So yeah, that was interesting there. I think you could probably add plus or minus 10 days depending on whether you're going during a super busy or super slow time. Yeah, we've actually been there. Remember, we've been there in World Showcase before, where they've got those signs out that say, for every sit-down restaurant has a sign out front that says, look, we're completely full and we're not taking any walk-up reservations at this time.
Right, and they'll also put, I know that there's usually a sign in front of the City Hall in the Magic Kingdom that will let you know which restaurants are open for, which restaurants have availability and which ones do not. So that's very helpful to have something like that.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Cool. Well, thanks, Len, for the very good research as usual.
Happy to do it.
And don't forget to visit our website at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.